I'm ready.
Yeah, you ready for the picture?
Ready for the close-up.
All right, let me just,
Mo.
Do I look through the lens or do I look at the
You are
screen?
pure unk status. You are an uncool.
All right, wait.
You
Well,
got it?
I think it took it.
Yeah.
like
Sure,
it.
it's in the middle. You can move it this way, there, and then you just half press. You see green, and then you press down. Okay?
But like, where's the picture? How can I see it?
Oh, uncool. You press play.
You press play, okay.
Yeah, and then you go left, right.
can tell
yeah,
that
it's
I
good.
hold a lot- How is
Dude,
this?
am I in focus? Damn.
Is it good?
It's good.
Okay, let me try another way. But wait, I have an idea. Since this is a Misan Harriman photo shoot, let me change up the atmosphere a little bit. All right, cool. Let me try again. How do I do?
I'm going into retirement.
Yeah.
I'm handing the baton to you. Fantastic work.
Should I give it to the professional? What a
course.
privilege.
Let's have
All right,
a
what do
look
I
at
do?
Just be you. Eyes closed. Eyes open. Lovely. Oh, wow. Very handsome man. Handsome. Young. Strong.
Niger.
Great.
In all seriousness, it is such a pleasure to host you on Real Talk today. Thank you so much for doing this. We have a lot to talk about. We're here at Hope 93 Gallery where a lot of your pictures are.
Yep.
So we're going to be talking a lot about your work. We're going to be talking about other things as well. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We're really doing Real Talk on this one.
Let's do it. Thank you, man.
Let's go.
Okay, so today I'm with Misan Harriman, the celebrated Nigerian British photographer and activist. You've definitely seen his work, which documents global protest movements. His images from the Black Lives Matter protests in 2020 catapulted him to online fame after they went viral. In our interview, Harriman also opens up about finding himself in the middle of a media storm after several right-wing news outlets in the UK were accused of a coordinated smear campaign against him over social media posts related to Reform's local election wins, as well as the Golders Green attack earlier this year. We do have a lot to get through. My name is Mohamed Hashem, and this is Real Talk.
But you know, here's it. Well, we're in a bigger room obviously
Yeah.
right now that has so much of your work.
Yeah.
But here's what I find super interesting. You were saying earlier, 7 years in 3 continents, where a lot of your work spanned. But you call yourself an introvert. You say that you shy away from big crowds. So how does that work when you're so immersed in all these big crowds right here?
I have a massive fear of crowds, which is a crazy thing of being a protest photographer.
Yeah.
When I hold the camera, everything melts away. I'm in a transient, sort of weird, it feels like I'm safe and I know the work that I have to do. And I believe that art can be much more than just what's on the walls, but it can be a way to realize who you are always supposed to be. And in these images, I think the truth that I'm finding in many of these people is very important, you know? This is what our ruling class has decided that will be normal, you know? Should we accept that, you know, there is so much poverty when we have a man becoming a trillionaire? Should we accept that, you know, Elon Musk was making, at least a few weeks ago, $1 million a minute? And would you rather have that or children to be able to be educated and grow up, you know? And this image here, I'll move this because it's one of the most important images, is...
What do we have?
This image here is one of the most important images because it's a white man holding a sign saying, I am now realizing my own Islamophobia.
What does that mean to you?
Well, look, we're all, you know, of the age that post 9/11, many of us were entertained by the dehumanization of the Muslim or Arab presenting man.
But is this in the context of a Palestine protest?
This is at a Palestine protest. And, you know, I always think of shows like Homeland, you know, where the baddie was Abu Nazir. It's the name of a baddie. And in every scene where there was somebody that looked like you, the music there'll be an expectation of violence. And going back even before that, films like True Lies were incredibly racist. So to see this man that has the privilege of being a white man hold this sign saying, I am now realizing my own Islamophobia, tells me that he is on a journey of growth. And I'm not here to judge people. especially if they're going on a journey of growth. That's a very powerful thing and shows what community can be if we unlearn, relearn, and decide to lean into the things we've been told to hate.
You know, in the context of there's so many pictures here in this room that are from pro-Palestine and Gaza solidarity protests, I do want to ask you, there's been a lot of talk ever since the genocide in Gaza about how I guess the mask has fallen off when it comes to the West, and when it comes to, there's been some sort of reckoning about, you know, being a minority living in the West, and others as well. I don't want to exclude anyone, but have you felt a sense, I guess, of loneliness when it comes to these big issues and how society and institutions around you deal with them? And I'm specifically talking about Gaza here.
I think it's been an awakening to realize.
Awakening in what sense?
Well, I've been vocal about Sudan, Congo, Nigeria, climate action, women's rights,
queer communities,
the queer community, Afghanistan, Iran even, there you can see on the wall. And I've never had anyone do anything but celebrate it. And the moment I started pointing my lens to the Palestine protest movement, it was a completely different experience. You know, even looking at humanitarian agencies and all of them having very famous ambassadors and very few ambassadors saying anything, yet they were very vocal for Ukraine. And for me, I don't understand that. You've got, you know, a Ukraine image there, right there. I did a lot of work for Ukraine, fundraising. I photographed the Ukraine protest. So why wouldn't I do the same thing for Palestinians? Why has it been so hard to bring Palestinian children into the country for urgent medical care when it was so easy to bring Ukrainian children in? So for me, there must be never, ever be children of a lesser God. And that was the turning point for me when I realized that these children, and there are 1 million children in Gaza, 1 million, were not being treated in any way that felt fair to me. And that's my work as a children's ambassador, as someone that believes that all children have a right to grow old. I have to be their voice.
Here's a question, because you know, we all know how renowned you are and how famous you are online. Surely you have been in touch with some of the biggest galleries, some of the biggest museums around the world, specifically in Western countries. How easy or how hard, I don't know, depends on your answer, but how would it be for you to have a gallery like this in other major centers, museums, or?
Well, I think I mean, some of my work is in the National Portrait Gallery.
But I'm referencing the pro-Palestine pictures because that's what you were talking about.
I think the reality is that the art world is just like every other industry, scared, or aspects of the art world is scared to reflect, which is the irony, because art is supposed to reflect the times that we're living in. And the idea that we can't reflect the biggest protest movement we've seen in a generation is absurd to me. So there are many museums around the world that want to show my work, but...
There's a but.
But.
Oh.
The Palestine of it all is always a concern. And they never use the language of remove. They all say, oh, could you curate a specific theme and all of that sort of language?
Really? You've had these conversations?
Yeah, of course. And
where they allude to you removing your work related to Palestine?
The word remove is rarely used.
Okay.
It's more, you know, we would love to see more Black Lives Matter. We would love to see more queer community. I'm like, no, this specific show is about the intersectionality. As we can see here, there's a picture saying they quote Dr. King, like they didn't kill him, next to release Dr. Hashem Abu Safia. That is intersectionality. Next to the queer community, next to Grenfell. And I want people to
Grenfell in London, yeah.
Yeah, it's extraordinary.
But wait, because I don't want to skim over this, Misan, because how do you react? Because that's also, because this is all your work. And I guess having, I'm sure all of this means so much to you.
Well, validation has changed because I'm a rare thing in an artist where I have really large reach, right? So I don't need to be gatekept. I've got an amazing gallerist here,
Sure.
right? Aki Abiola, who is, I think changing a big part of how the art world works, because this has become one of the busiest gallery shows in a generation, because people are coming from as far as Australia, Cambodia to come and see this show. So the museums, either they recognize the importance of documenting history, right? Or they'll be seen for looking away when the world wants to see this. And that's on them, not me. I always say...
Does it piss you off, or does it disappoint you?
At this point, the community's coming. I mean, you were at the screening the other day. We're having sold-out shows everywhere.
Yeah.
The people are coming, and as an artist, the hardest thing to do is to reach people. That's not a problem for me. So I want them to have access to these works, and it helps them go on a journey. I mean, this is Denise Gough,
the actress,
famous actress,
yeah.
Of Andor fame, and that's outside the BBC. Right, and she's like, you only target journalists if the enemy is the truth. And look at the emotion in her eyes and her face. It is so important for these images. And I believe a long time after you and I are gone, these images will remain, and they will remind the world what we did in this historic moment that we are all living through. We have a blind man there, I have to say. We have a blind man there.
That one, yeah. Hands off Gaza.
I mean, what more do you need to say?
But that's the thing, is the emphasis at this point in your career, is it more on the people, less on the institutions?
I think the institutions will follow in their own time.
You think so?
I'm in a unique place as an artist, right? Where they, most people need a nice review. They need people to say, oh, he's this art. I've gone beyond that by quite some margin. And there is a global family that recognizes my voice and my art and will support it. Also, there are many museums in other parts of the world that are talking to us about some very big museum shows as well. And that will be a reflection of the art world. Which spaces, could I get a show in Germany? I doubt it. Could I get a show in Spain? I think so. Right? So you can see who has a view and who doesn't. So it's going to be...
And you're starting to internalize that yourself, basically.
Yeah. And we'll go where we're wanted. And the places that don't want us, I'm sure in hindsight, like Omar El Akkad said, one day everyone would have been against us.
Okay. There will be a point where we sit down. I don't want us to stand.
And this is a very important picture as well, because this is it. This is it.
This is bigger than your career. Oh, there we go.
Straight up.
I just read this now, actually.
It is bigger than all of our careers. What do you know when you see the existential threat of fascism and the industrialized war for profit machine destroying the lives of so many people in Sudan, in Congo, in Gaza, of course. And then you look at climate action, you look at the earthquake in Venezuela, you look at the people that don't have a voice for many of the choices made by men that they will never meet, firing drones. It's not acceptable.
Who's someone that you... Is there a subject that is on a photography wish list for you? Maybe alive and maybe not alive?
Many of them have passed away.
Many of them have passed away?
I would have loved to photograph James Baldwin.
Sure.
Quincy Jones, I would have loved to photograph.
Sure.
I have photographed Sir David Attenborough, which
he just had his 100th birthday.
Yeah, I photographed the great Palestinian actor Salah Bakri. I didn't get to photograph his father, may he rest in peace, Mohamed. But that was a big deal for me, because I think he is as good as any Western actor, if not better. So I've been lucky to be able to shoot a lot of my heroes. And right now, my heroes are the nameless people on the streets that are not afraid to say a thing is what a thing is, which is really, really important.
What's your recipe for evoking emotion, though? Because there's a lot in the work that you do that obviously there's a lot of emotion here, but it's not just that. I mean, you directed a short film that was nominated for an Oscar, The After, which is on Netflix. I watched that, and again, it's like oozing with emotions. And so there's obviously a theme here in your work. There's the color theme, the black and white, but there's also the theme of
I don't do
emotion.
comedy.
You don't do comedy.
Look, I'm on the autism spectrum. I'm neurospicy. There is a way that I feel. You know, I photograph everything heart first. You know, look at this guy, neurodivergence against fascism. He's already a family. You know, I'm like, yeah, we can be family, and we feel the world differently. You know, it's difficult for me to look away from the ills of the world, and it can be a heavy burden, but it can allow you to really, really cut through the noise and focus on what really, really matters. And that's what I'm trying to do with my lens.
Well, you know what? We're going to carry on. I appreciate it, Misan. Like, thank you for letting me into this space. There's still more that we're going to talk about, more that deals with scrutiny, that we're things that we need to address. But I'm just going to take another look around these photos, and then we're going to set up for,
this one. This
sit-down
is
conversation.
a single tear in Barcelona.
A single tear.
Yeah, look at the tear falling.
I see it. Yeah.
And the goodbyes. That was going on the Global Samud Flotilla, and it's just, again, there's in imagery, you know, you can capture these moments that hold the emotion of the moment there for you to remember and also to understand how high the stakes are. It's just, yeah. Wow. It moves me, and I'm like, I took the picture, but it moves me. It's beautiful. Wow. And it's humanity. That's real. That's more important than someone dancing in their living room on TikTok, for God's sake. This is it.
Dare I ask you your thoughts about TikTok?
This is it. This is it.
You know. All right. Well, I'm gonna take all this in.
Yep.
And then we're gonna set up for a sit-down chat.
Okay.
And we're back.
Hello.
Hi, Misan. You know, one of our team members here, as was before the cameras were set up, he was asking me questions about the photos and stuff. And you know, if you look up, there's photos up there that deal specifically with Palestine. Palestinian journalists, they say journalists are not a target. There's one about Anas al-Sharif, who's a Palestinian journalist that was killed by Israel during the genocide. Now, the question that comes to mind here, Misan, is how does an artist like you know, with all these photos put up in your work being, you know, known across different countries, across different continents, how do you reckon with what we've seen in terms of Palestinian journalists and photojournalists kind of documenting like their own annihilation, their own genocide?
How do I reckon with it? I mean, I had the honor of photographing Wael al-Dawdouh.
Wael al-Dawdouh, yeah. He was the Al Jazeera bureau chief in Gaza, yeah.
Who you know, had his wife, 2 sons, and grandson murdered, right? So I didn't even know what to do when I met him. You know, I was, and he was still healing. He had something in his hand that was still healing. And, you know, I did my job, you know, I held the camera and I tried to show his strength, his grace. And, you know, we really need to think about the global community of journalists and how little they've done for the brotherhood and sisterhood of those that are brave enough to make sure that truth doesn't leave the room by being journalists. And it happened before October 2023. Shireen Abu Akleh was assassinated, I think that's the right word, in the West Bank, right? And that case was not handled properly. I will never forget the imagery of her funeral. I will never, do you remember, right? When her coffin was being held and
It almost fell.
Yeah. How is anyone supposed to react to that at a funeral? So the attack on journalists, and I would say health workers, has been more than we've ever seen in any kind of war conflict in modern history. And the big question is, what have the global contemporaries done? You know, how many walkouts have we had of newsrooms in solidarity? I would say
walkouts in newsrooms.
Yeah, in Berlin, in New York, in London. Have you seen any?
No,
I haven't.
But it's interesting that's what you're referring to, basically protests by journalists.
Well, the fraternity, and the sisterhood. Yes, I mean, if you're a journalist in New York or London and you see your fellow men and women that do what you've been trained to do keep getting murdered, you do two things. You report on it without any bias. And if that's not working, if your senior editors are telling you you can't say whatever, then I would say you do some sort of protest. Health workers, I think we have seen a lot of people globally within the health worker community do what they can. There have been many rallies and protests and trying to recognize how many doctors, how many health workers have also been killed, which is a war crime. So for me, I'm the man that holds the camera. So for me, it's to bear witness to how people respond to the horrors of the world. And that certainly is one of the many horrors that we're all having to observe in this moment that we're living through.
Another aspect that you're critical of is celebrity culture. And you've been critical of the idea. I think you've called celebrities false idols. But also specifically in this context, you've called out the idea of celebrities not being vocal on what's happening in Gaza, Palestine, and other places as well.
Well, the World Cup's happening now, right? And there are a lot of very famous people on the pitch even. And the Egyptian coach, he is not a celebrity, but he's doing what I think the celebrity should be doing. He is using his voice for those that don't have a voice. And he's been louder than Cristiano Ronaldo, and he's been louder than Lionel Messi, right? So, it's a choice, really. And the real estate of the attention economics of our time is on social media. And what happened in the last 15 years is that the most famous have the most real estate, which means that they could affect change quicker than you and me. So if you look at the top 10 most followed people online, half of them are Kardashians and the rest are footballers, soccer players.
Cristiano, I think Cristiano is the most followed in the world, I think.
Exactly. And he has been living in an Arab country as well, so he should be well versed on what's happening to specifically Arab children. We can start there. I always say start with kids. If you're scared to say something, start with kids, because if anyone wants to debate you or me on the sanctity of a child living or dying, then they're sociopaths. I think we can all agree on that. Like if you meet someone and say, no, some kids deserve to die, I have a problem with that. And I hope that isn't an extreme view for any human in the world to have. Otherwise, we're lost. Homo sapiens, we're lost.
Is this what fuels you on a daily basis? Is this because you're very, in addition to all your work, you're very vocal on social media. You're very vocal.
Yeah, I pretty much cried myself through the last 2 years online. I'm like, my God, Misan, everyone's watching you cry. I think what I said to you earlier about not, being neurospicy, my emotional engine, I can handle many things, but I'm not good at knowing children are suffering. I'm just not good at it, and I'm not going to pretend that's something that I should shy away from. And then you factor, I may not have the platform of Cristiano Ronaldo, but I have a platform.
You do have a platform.
So
hundreds of thousands.
I'm trying. I'm trying to use it to ask the world to do better, let the world know how I feel. And you know what happens when you do that? You get a whole bunch of other people that are saying, you know what, I feel the same way. Thank God. I was scared that, but now you've made me feel that there's nothing wrong with caring for children. What are we doing here? Children. Let's start there. How many people do you and I know that haven't said anything about children being killed? That's where we are today. And I don't know about you, it's not something that anyone will ever silence me on. No way. Otherwise, who are you? What do the accolades mean? All of this, what does it mean if you know that children are suffering and you could do something about it and you choose to look away or be silent?
You talk about not being silenced. I mean, you have been the subject of scrutiny, of attacks recently, which is, I'm going to delve into in a second, but there's something that I'm thinking about right now that I also want to put to you, because this has been a pattern that I've been seeing in terms of how you've been criticized and scrutinized the past little while. It's no secret. It's in the public arena, where you come from and who your family is and who your father was. The privilege. You're the son of a Nigerian billionaire, and that has been covered multiple times publicly. But when it comes to the scrutiny that you've been receiving, in addition to all the attacks, this has also come up in the sense of like, well, you know, Misan is famous and he's got all these connections. It alludes to nepotism, basically. You wouldn't have celebrity friends if it weren't for your class or if it weren't for your privilege, as you put it. You know, you wouldn't be the first, you know, black male photographer for the cover of British Vogue if it weren't for the connections that you have and the celebrity friends that you have and so on and so forth. And then comes up obviously Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, all these things come up in the public eye. But I do want you to address this whole idea of you wouldn't be as successful as you are if it weren't for actually who you know, what family you belong to and who you are as a person.
I mean, there's so many angles to that. I think the first one on the privilege thing, so many white people that are privileged, no one ever questions their background, you know, which I find interesting. So many. But also, I find it funny because many of the articles that have written about my privilege have been written about by privileged men that went to the same school system as I did, that have all sorts of networks that I have. And it feels ironic that they're criticizing the very system that they come from. And I think
what's at the root of it? What's at the heart of it, do you
I think that the heart of it is to have someone that comes from elite spaces that wants to build something that is for the many, not the few. I said this in the film. I know how the deck is stacked for the privileged, and I hate the idea of that. I would rather that your children and everyone else's children have a fighting chance of a life of possibility that isn't just for people that were born into having things due to no choice of their own. Due to the systems that I've had access to, I also know how the game works. You know, how multiple prime ministers have been to similar schooling systems in England, and how the entitlement of all that may bring for a binary worldview that doesn't always see the broad church of human beings that deserve the right to enjoy this thing called life. And I would also say this, you know, the whole point of having influence is to use it to help others, to have a life of service. You know, if you talk about fame and wealth, one of my heroes who was wealthy and famous is a gentleman called Muhammad Ali. Sure. And he kind of used his wealth and his platform to help others, to resist forces that told him to be quiet.
I'm in agreement with you, but what would you say to someone that's like, you know what, like, I have very little in common with Misan. You know, we come from different backgrounds. Why would I connect with a man like him?
I mean, the connecting thing is really interesting because you never choose who you connect with. You know, I've just had 2 sold-out shows of screenings of my film, of which I
was at one of them.
You're at one of them, and there's people from all walks of life that clearly do connect with me. I'm reaching over 100 million people a month of people that clearly don't think, oh, you know, why should I have something in common with them? And I think the art comes first. You can't force people. So my images before I got the Vogue cover were everywhere, and you can't force people to react to that. Either your work, it's literally surrounding us now, does something, cuts through. And no one's thinking when you look at somebody's art on what's their background. They're looking for, is this art extraordinary? Does it speak to me? Does the soft power of what's lying between the highlights and the shadows cut through to how I see the world, perceive myself, and more? And I think the answer is yes, with me it did. And, you know, next they'll say is they gave him an Oscar nomination. I don't think they did. I made a film that was put out there, and once again the world responded to it. But many people in my position would choose to keep their head below the parapet, would choose to uphold systems that actually allow inequality to thrive. And I don't know, you know, what fate has in store for me, but I do know that I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to build the bridges that have been broken by the very people that are supposed to protect us.
Well, following on to this, I mean, you've been in the media quite a bit recently. There's for multiple reasons. I mean, we talk about the film Shoot the People, which just premiered in the UK. So that's one reason. You stepping down from your position as chair of the South Bank Center, that's another. And you know, these articles that have basically attacked you for posts that you've posted on social media, for things that you've said online. The two things that are basically that stick out in all of this are, one is an accusation that you have cheapened the Holocaust due to a quote that you have that you spoke about, which is a quote to Susan Sontag, who's the Jewish American writer.
Words, yeah.
And you used it in reference to what was happening with the rise of reform.
Yeah, the election results.
The election results.
Yeah.
So that was one part, and then the second part, in terms of these articles, was what you have said in the sense of there was a recent Golders Green attack against two Jewish people, but also on the same day, the perpetrator also attacked a Muslim man. And you were basically saying, well, the media wasn't focusing on the Muslim man; it was only focusing on one side of the incident, and that got you a lot of scrutiny as well. And so let's address it head on. First off, how did you react? They were coming out in the Telegraph, but there were other papers as well on the right in the UK that were reporting this. But let's talk about this from your perspective.
Well, I mean, I responded in the way that I always do. You know, I had, as soon as I saw the attacks, and this was again omitted by the newspapers on the Jewish people that were stabbed, the first thing I did was do a post in solidarity with the Jewish community, which is what I would always do anyway.
And may I also add, Misan, just for context for viewers, these articles were the result of initially social media posts that were attacking you, and then they were picked up by the media. Is that correct?
Yes, you know, so lots of people on X are making accusations, and many of them then become headlines on newspapers in Britain, which is a whole nother story, because it's interesting how sometimes anonymous X pages or X pages that specialize in saying one thing without contextualizing anything else can have newspapers just lead with what these pages are saying, which is interesting. But the first thing I did was, of course, speak out in solidarity with the British Jewish community as soon as I heard about the stabbings. And then when I later on found out there was a Muslim victim as well, I, like many other people, and you know, Emmy, Melissa, I did similar reporting, Mehdi Hassan, many others are like, where was the
coverage?
Where is the coverage? And I thought that was a very fair point to make. And that was called just me questioning the reporting, that literally you can go online and see the difference between the victims and how they were reported. To question that was said to be an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. And the Susan Sontag quote is a quote I've used many times on podcasts. It's Rolling Stone magazine did a whole article about that quote itself. It's a quote that's been used by many people about how societies behave. When you talk about 10% of people being evil, 10% being merciful, and the other 80 can be swayed in either direction, and we have to do the swaying. So in the context of the reform results, I spoke to my community saying, we've got a lot of work to do. You know, we've got to do the swaying to make sure people are kinder rather than going in any other direction. And I even said that reform, in the same video that was cut from 5 minutes to 57 seconds by one of these people on X, I said that reform voters are not the devil. I humanize them. And in a video where I humanize reform voters and I ask us to try and be better as a community, a headline is run saying that I am equating the reform victory to Nazis and the Holocaust. And it's extraordinary. And even the biographer of Susan Sontag signed my letter of support, which makes this whole thing even more extraordinary. But we're living in a post-truth world where if the newspapers decide that they want to say something, they say it very loudly. And it's one thing to disagree with what I say, but the art of omission is where I find it most dangerous, because with the granularity of the way they've looked at my social media, they would have seen statement after statement after statement over many years in solidarity with the Jewish community, going to standing together protests, photographing children, the children of people that were killed in October 7th, posting numerous images of Israeli children that had been taken hostage. That's all there. And can you imagine serious newspapers knowing that, pretending it's not there and saying, this man is this? And I was very shocked that that would be
What does that
used.
tell you about the media climate we're in? I know you're saying that it's a post-truth world, but what does it tell you about the media climate?
It's really dangerous. And I know organizations like Hacked Off are working on it. Many lives have been destroyed by it. I've been very lucky to get a lot of support. But I mean, even little things like putting quotation marks above the words conspiracy theory and anti-Semitism gives some kind of protection against libel, where they then try and explain more 8 pages down, but the headline with those quotation marks is there to do as much damage even if it's not true. And that feels very bad faith, especially when the Jewish community is so traumatized as it is, as we can see already. The Fourth Estate should be making sure that truth never leaves the room. And if someone that is known to be an activist that has leaned into communities like the Jewish community, I mean, my images of the Jewish community, the Jewish bloc, images there, I'm looking at one now, I think I have the biggest archive of Jewish protesters in the UK across multiple movements, right? And again, none of those images were published and it's never spoken about. And I'm thankful for people like Danny Levy.
He wrote that article in
who wrote that article saying it is dangerous for me to be accused to be an anti-Semite. And furthermore, for the black community, it's very scary. The Voice magazine, Voice newspaper, the biggest newspaper, spoke candidly about this attack from right-wing newspapers on me that was also very racist, very racialized. And there are aspects of how I was described that was clearly a dog whistle to a far-right element of their readership that would put me and my family in danger, because I have now getting death threats from registered Telegraph readers,
You've received death threats as a result of these
comments, yeah.
How did these headlines, I mean, when you first saw them, how did you mentioned family, how did you and your family react to them? I mean,
well, you try and protect those that dear to you. I think the community, a broad range of people came very quickly. In my defense, I got to give Nima, who runs News Corp, a shout out, who created the ability for people to make complaints to Ipso, and a huge number of people made complaints to Ipso, which is very, very important.
80,000 at least, maybe more now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was over 100,000. You went onto that platform to make complaints, and Ipso obviously have said that many of my complaints may be in breach of editorial code, and they're investigating it as we speak.
But that hasn't stopped the headlines, though.
No, it hasn't.
Because there were more articles that have come since then.
There are more, and we need to ask ourselves, what does press regulation mean? If the press can write anything they like about anyone they like, who they decide they don't like their point of view. And I'll repeat, it is the act of omission that is most dangerous, because if you're going to say somebody is one thing, you must let your readership know all the things he is, otherwise that is an article of manipulation. And I haven't seen any of those newspapers publish any of my well-documented images, statements, videos, everything that I've said with the Jewish community. And being in boarding school, I have to say, my relationship with the Jewish community started then. You won't be surprised to know that the kids that were boarding were Muslim, Arab, South Asian, Jewish kids, and a few Chinese kids, and of course, Nigerians. And we were all bullied, right? And that was my first experience of understanding what it is to be othered. I was called the N-word. The Arabs and Indian kids were all called the P-word, because racist kids can't tell any difference. And the Jewish kids were called the Y-word. And we all stuck together and became lifelong friends from that time, and being the person that I am, knowing that a big part of my understanding of injustice comes from looking into the Jewish experience and the history of the Holocaust, to be called a Jew hater and an anti-Semite when it's a community I've consistently leaned into is deeply troubling, deeply troubling.
If we're being honest here, Misan, this level of scrutiny, I mean, it's not like you were an activist yesterday. It's not like you were an activist last week. It's not like you started being outspoken just, in recent months.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great point. I mean, I think my announcement articles, they actually call me the BLM photographer becomes chair of South Bank. So
is that more palatable?
I mean, it's a good point. I mean, I haven't had any negative articles about me when I've spoken up about Grenfell, Black Lives, women's rights, climate action, all very positive things. So it is an interesting point that these articles have come when I've turned my lens, as I would do if you are someone that documents protest movements, to Palestine, which is the biggest protest movement we've seen in a generation. My Ukraine image just over there, I documented that, no issues whatsoever. But the moment that I started documenting Palestinian protests, I saw not just the articles have come recently, but if you look at the discourse and bots and what people are saying online, it was very different to the sentiment of other things that I had documented. Yeah, I would say that.
Do you fear cancel culture?
Well, I fear a world where truth is a needle in a haystack. Because when we get to that world, we start getting to what Orwell warned us about, which is that we are being asked to reject what we see and hear with our eyes and ears. And if we get to that place, then the violence that is being normalized on our newsfeed will be ignored by more people, when more people should be saying that this can't be the only solution. If we all want to have a future of shared humanity, we can't accept violence. I don't believe peace ever came from endless bombing. And if I'm seen as an extremist for begging people to stop killing children, then that's a badge that I will happily wear.
Have you lost any opportunities, any jobs, any projects as a result of this?
Well,
the scrutiny.
Well, you don't really realize, you don't really know who's coming and going, but I've certainly gained a tribe of extraordinary human beings from every religious group, every cultural line that has shown their support and solidarity. I'm busy with the projects that I have. I have 2 feature films in development and a documentary show, and I'm doing the photograph thing.
So there's still more projects on the way.
There's a lot of projects on the way.
You're not going away anytime soon.
I'm not going away, but I'm also helping people I care about. Doing work with children with Down syndrome, doing stuff with people in the prison industrial complex, helping people in the queer community, things I've always done. And again, the papers have never covered that. And it's a very specific thing that they are choosing to say that I am, and everything else is unimportant to their audience that they're speaking to, and I think that's very dangerous.
As another thing, this is more minor, but something I noticed when I was reading these articles, the accusations will come up that he's this and this and that, and he's also friends with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Mm-hmm. And it goes into, again, this culture. I don't know enough about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle to comment, but I do know that they have been,
and
the way that they've been covered.
It's a specific part of the press that has specific...
Loves to hate on them, loves to hate on Meghan Markle.
Yeah, and also as a black woman as well, there's a very racialized element of this, and some of the comments I see about her are disgusting.
So it's more like, I feel like the intention behind this connection is to give readers, here's another reason why you should hate this guy.
Yeah, I think it appeals to a very similar audience, and that's a shame. My job is instead of us just being enraged at each other, is to try and find humanity in each other, and I don't think that's something that is an extremist thing to attempt to do in a very angry world. I will continue to do it with my voice, with my lens, and how I move in the communities that I'm trying to engage with.
So you don't feel like this experience will make you less vocal online, or maybe have some sort of social media strategy per se?
Well, my strategy has always been to be the voice for those that don't have a voice. So if you stop being the voice for children in Congo and Sudan and in Gaza, then what is really happening here? You know, you follow me, you see what I speak about, and as do millions of people. And I'm not a shock jock. There are many people that do the kind of things that, you know, are there to make you angry. People don't become enraged by listening to me. They usually go into a place to consider things, to go on a journey. And just like we spoke earlier when I was talking about the far right people, I'm like, they're human beings. Many of them have valid reasons to be angry, and we should lean into communities we've been told to hate. And that's what I'm going to continue doing. And I would dare say we need more people to do that, not less.
And speaking of journey, Misan Harriman, what has this journey, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it, what has it taught you so far?
What has it taught me? That there's no pillow as soft as a clear conscience, and that hope lives in the communities that you decide you're part of. And hope lives in the idea that the very people you've been told to hate are the people you should be listening to and engaging with and understanding their hopes, their fear, their joy, in order for us to step off our islands of rage and look toward the horizon together.
What do you hope your followers, before we wrap this up, I mean, people that, follow you in a literal sense online, but also people who have just, you know, they're fans from afar, and they just follow your work through different media outlets and whatnot. But what is your message to them? What do you hope that they take away from your experience?
From my experience, just to stay kind, to curate what you read online, and to make sure that the algorithms don't take you down paths that make you more afraid, more angry, and more apathetic, when empathy is what you should be feeding. And also to think about religious lines and cultural lines to not be limitations of you seeing the humanity of your brothers and sisters, and most importantly, that there must never be children of a lesser God.
We're just going to leave it here. Listen, I can't thank you enough for welcoming me into this part of your world right here. I really appreciate it. This was very enjoyable.
Thank you.
Thank you for the tour. And thank you for, oh, absolutely. No, thank you. And thank you for...
And actually, there's one thing I wanted to say. You know, for a lot of people that I'm neurodivergent, and a lot of people I believe that are sensitive to the world are neurodivergent. And if you're listening to parents that have children that are neurodivergent, those minds really are what the world needs. That different perspective, the ability to feel deeply about things, could be the very solution to what we need in this deeply, deeply wounded planet. And it is the only planet we have. So different minds are beautiful minds, and it's important to say that because it's never said enough.
And we'll leave it here. Misan Harriman.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you for coming on Real Talk.
Cheers.
This was great.
Is that okay?
That was great. These guys are happy. Look at him. Look, he's clapping. All right, guys, so that was Real Talk with Misan Harriman. There's more Real Talk on the way, so make sure you subscribe to @Middle East Style on YouTube, and also Real Talk by MEE. See you soon.